Welcome to episode number 249 of the Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for all of you marketing, advertising, public relations, and communications professionals. We are recording live on YouTube on November 15, 2018. The topics this week include Firefox Monitor, long-form YouTube, Facebook's Best of Show, Can You Do It Cheaper, Podcast Genome, Christmas Band, Facebook Deception, The Great Coke Wipe, Technological Totalitarianism, GoFundYourself, Fighting Deepfakes, and much, much more. And Beal kicks it off, as she always does, with the best story of the week. Beal, what was that?
Well, I think that this is both a necessary and terrific story, and it's a very long story that really everybody has to read. It's from the Neiman Lab, and it's Francesco Marconi and Till Dalrup, and it's a fascinating and equally terrifying story about how the Wall Street Journal has formed a task force to train its journalists to be able to detect deep fakes. So as we've discussed on the show, artificial intelligence is fueling the next phase of misinformation, and this new type of synthetic media known as deep fakes makes major challenges to newsrooms when it comes to verifying facts. So at the Journal, they've formed an internal deepfakes task force led by ethics and standards and the research and development teams. And then they also have a Wall Street Journal media forensics committee comprised of video, photo, visuals, research, platform, and news editors, all of whom are being trained in deepfake detection. So that ought to give you an idea of how complicated and difficult it is to detect all of this. So beyond this core effort, they're hosting seminars with reporters and developing newsroom guides and collaborating with academic institutions like Cornell Tech to identify ways that technology can combat this technology. So the article's a must-read for many reasons. It explains how deep fakes are created, the steps to take to detect deep fakes, something that's pretty hard to do on your own, frankly. And compounding the problem, they point out, is that there's a number of companies creating technologies, often for innocuous reasons, like for making movies, that nonetheless could eventually end up being used to make deep fakes. So deep fakes have ramifications for our society. For example, and David talked about this before, fake videos could place politicians in meetings with foreign agents or even show soldiers committing crimes against civilians, or fake audio could make it seem like government officials are privately planning attacks on other nations. I mean, you think of the horrible way that it could be used and you haven't thought far enough. So the story concludes that deepfakes are not going away anytime soon. It's safe to say that these elaborate forgeries will make verifying media harder, and that this challenge will become more difficult over time. However, newsrooms can and should follow the evolution of the threat, and they have to conduct research, partner with academic institutions, and train their journalists on how to leverage all these new tools. And so in the article, which is a too long must read article, there are deep face examples. And then there's a quiz at the top. There are two videos of Ronald Reagan that says, can you tell which one is fake? And you only find out which one is fake at the bottom, and don't cheat. And I guarantee you can't tell.
I didn't finish the article, so I didn't go to the bottom to find out, but I do have an idea of which one I think is the fake. It's not just newsrooms, and newsrooms are an obvious target and obvious need of educating themselves and identifying deep fakes, but PR agencies and in-house PR departments as well could, if it's going to start with politicians, it's going to start in politics, but politics is bleeding into the business world as well, and corporations are going to be attacked with this. Companies are going to be attacked with fake deep fakes, and they're going to have
it's probably already happening.
Media forensics to identify. I bet there will be a cottage industry in deep fake analysts, firms growing up that that basically you sell their services in determining what's a fake and what's not. So
Pretty
yeah.
scary stuff, you know, but like I said, it's absolutely fascinating.
It is, and yeah, we are getting to the point where, you know, back when virtual reality was becoming becoming a thing in popular consciousness, mostly in entertainment and in movies and stuff. The premise was people would be not being able to distinguish reality from virtual reality anymore. That's kind of what this is about too.
Yeah, and you know, this is just the beginning. I
Yeah.
mean, it's the really early phases of it. So, you know, pay attention, guys, and read this article.
Yeah, yeah, must read. This is from this is another video story, a much lighter one from Wired's Emma Gray Ellis, who introduces this article by telling a story of a rambling pet eulogy video, 75-minute video that she started watching and watched to the end, along with an additional 300,000 plus people who had watched this eulogy for a pet from some popular YouTubers. And she used that story by way of illustrating YouTube's shift towards long form video. So videos that last anywhere between 15 minutes and 2 hours have become not only common but successful on YouTube. These days, smartphone users are spending 54% of their video viewing time on videos over 20 minutes long. That's up from 29% at the beginning of 2016. You know, when people always ask me how long their video should be, and usually they say it should be short, at least, you know, at the most 3 minutes long. And I'm like, it needs to be as long as it needs to be. It just needs to be compelling to keep everybody's interest for as long as you need it to be, right? But so long form is not a bad thing, and YouTube is changing to accommodate that. So making those short shareable videos used to be the way to appeal to a broad audience, but that's given way to, on YouTube at least, to longer, more niche videos. The article cites a Pew Research Center study that shown that YouTube has been shifting its recommendation system to reward long videos. The researchers took more than 170,000 random walks, quote unquote, through YouTube over a period of 6 weeks, and then let the site's recommendations be their guide. They ended up watching over 300,000 unique videos, but just 2 patterns emerged among the recommended video statistics. The first was that recommended algorithm drove viewers towards more and more popular creators. So popularity breeds popularity, right? But also that YouTube's recommendations consistently increased in length. So at first, they recommended videos that were 9.5 minutes, and then 12 minutes, and then 15 minutes. So it was increasing the
And as they watched, that happened?
It was recommending longer and longer videos. In January, YouTube shifted the metrics to reward channels based on watch hours. We've talked about this in the past. They required creators to have 1,000 subscribers and at least 40,000 watch hours per year in order to earn ad revenue. Before, you just needed 10,000 views over the lifetime of your channel. Longer videos obviously create more opportunities for advertising and more tolerance for ads. So while a 60-second video sitting through a 15-second ad for a 60-second video is pretty intolerable, right? Why am I watching 15 seconds of an ad for a mere 60-second video? 3 ads over the course of an hour-long video is not that bad, right? It's better than television in terms of tolerability. So the business model makes sense for YouTube to want to push longer videos because it allows them to sell more ads and less annoyance by its users. One of the newest features of YouTube, Premieres, gives YouTubers the ability to create landing pages to promote upcoming videos prior to their release to build excitement for the release. So that's one indication of how YouTube is changing its platform to encourage longer form videos. Some marketers are calling this strategy sofa mentality. The idea that YouTube now is must see TV, and is a habit for viewers, that people will curl up every evening and watch YouTube just as they do with TV. But that's an interesting new development on YouTube.
Well, I'll tell you, I mind the commercials on YouTube a lot less than I mind the ones on Facebook, that all of a sudden just take over your screen. You're watching a 2-minute video and all of a sudden there's a minute-long ad in the middle. I've stopped watching. I don't watch video on Facebook anymore. I don't do much on Facebook anymore. But, you know, I think that this really ups the ante for the content part of it. And the bottom line is it's pretty hard to be interesting for an hour, you know, without a lot of production value and all sorts of things. So I understand that it's a vehicle for advertising, but I wonder how good the content's going to be.
Well, I mean, the recommendation rewards popularity, right? The recommendation engine rewards popularity. So so it's on you to be popular. It's on you to be compelling enough for people to watch through for an hour. So yeah, we'll see.
Personally, I find that rare. Anyway, Firefox has a couple of new updates, and one of the things that they're doing, which nobody else seems to be doing, is tagging data breaches. So this is from a VentureBeat article by Paul Sawers, and Mozilla, who make Firefox, announced a couple of updates to Firefox Monitor, which is a data breach alert tool that they launched, I think, in September. And I told you that their first thing that they had was "Have you been pawned?", which tells you if your email address has been part of any data breach. And now the desktop browser itself will tell you if a website you're currently visiting has reported a data breach in the last year. So a statement from Firefox says, "We're bringing this functionality to Firefox users in recognition of the growing interest in these types of privacy and security-centric features. This new functionality is gradually going to roll out to Firefox users over the coming weeks." I haven't seen it yet, but the alerts are not specific to you, to an individual. They won't tell you if your data's been leaked, but you'll know that you have an account on a given site. You can click on the alert to visit Firefox Monitor and put your email address, and that'll tell you if you've been affected. So it's a couple of steps to it. And they're also supporting 26 languages, including Chinese, Czech, Dutch, English, Canadian English, French, German, Japanese, Portuguese, Russian, Spanish, Turkish, and Ukrainian. And this is just the beginning of a line of privacy and security focused updates that they're promising. And so I know we did this back in March, but Mozilla rolled out Facebook Container, which is an add-on extension that you can use to isolate your web browsing activity from Facebook and avoid being tracked by Facebook. We all need that right now.
That's interesting. Does it say where they're getting the data on what sites have had a data leak or data breach?
I have not gone that deeply into it, so I don't know.
It's fascinating. So
announcements.
One, it's supposed to give you an announcement. It's supposed to alert you to a website that you're visiting has had a data breach. And two, it has a function where you can enter your email address to find out if your personal data was breached, correct?
That's right. They're two separate actions, though, not in the same place.
That suggests to me that they themselves have a database of data breaches, which is an invitation for a data breach.
Can't win, can you, Dave?
So this is...
you're going to hear a lot of noise because some crazy stuff is happening in New York right now.
And no apocalypse, and no New York can't deal with it, apparently.
Some sort of accident, because there's a whole lot of crazy stuff going on outside. So hopefully you won't hear it, but it's there.
Right. So this is very quick, and I just came across it today. I don't know if it's been around for a while or not, but this is the first time I've seen it, and it is hilarious. It's an image that somebody put together an illustration. And at the top, we will put this in the show notes so people can actually see it. I'm going to describe it. At the top, the title reads, "When Your Client Asks." And at the bottom, it says, "If you can do it cheaper." And in the middle is a drawing of a horse. And the hind part of the horse, the back two legs of the horse, is a beautiful hand-drawn picture of the horse. And that morphs into, on the front part of the horse, a child's drawing of a horse.
Funniest thing yet.
So it is perfectly, yeah, I can do it cheaper, you're just going to get what you get. Right? Every marketer can relate to that.
It's such a brilliant drawing. I love that. So on also a lighter note, I mean, we got a lot of bad news about Facebook, but I'm a dog lover, and Facebook is partnering with the Dodo for the Amazing Dog Contest. And this is from The Wrap, and the reporter's Matt Lopez, and Facebook's under siege for so many reasons, but this is fun. So in a fashion similar to TV's American Idol or America's Got Talent, they're going on a worldwide search to find what they believe to be the world's most amazing dog. Facebook users from more than 35 countries have the opportunity to submit an audition video of their pet doing an amazing trick or something else, some other kind of routine. And the judges and the Facebook community will then vote and decide who will get $100,000 and the title World's Most Amazing Dog. So since the launch of Facebook Watch in 2017, the content about animals is probably the strongest performer on the platform, and the Dodo already has several show pages on Facebook with more than 3 million followers. Those include Odd Couples and The Comeback Kid, and they regularly views per episode, which absolutely dwarfs the average views for scripted Facebook shows, which generally get less than 500,000 per episodes. So auditions are open on the show page, and for every audition submitted, this is cool, Facebook will donate $1 up to $1 million US to an animal charity.
Well, that's pretty cool. It's a way to boost Facebook Watch, which I think might be languishing a little bit there. So
What?
Yeah, cool. Are we done with the good stuff?
No, I have another.
Right.
Okay, so one of the difficulties about podcasts is stats and finding them. There's over 500,000 podcasts in the world, so they cover everything from ABBA to zoology, and there's almost certainly a podcast out there for anything you might be interested in, but no great way to find it. So this is from a Wired story by John Porter, and he's talking about how on Tuesday, Pandora launched their public beta of the Podcast Genome project. And what they've done is they've got 1,500 attributes that in an algorithm that aim to find your perfect podcast match based on your prior listening habits, which is how Pandora Music works. So the attributes in the algorithm include everything from the ratings that you give to podcasts to which episodes you skip and which ones you replay more than once. And Pandora even says that its natural language processing is clever enough to identify a podcast topics on an individual episode level, allowing you to, for example, dip into a gaming podcast for a single episode on your favorite game. So the project wants to make podcasts more discoverable, and that should help podcasters, listeners, and perhaps advertisers.
That's very cool. Maybe they can do a podcast transcription service next too, if they can identify the language or what's being said within a podcast, so we don't have to do it ourselves.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So let's go on to worst. This is a breaking story that broke today. The New York Times, with a host of reporters, Shira Frankel, Nick Confessori, Cecilia Kang, Matthew Rosenberg, and Jack Nickus, reported on Facebook. It's a blockbuster story. They interviewed more than 50 people. It's a 500-word story, too long, must read. So we'll get to the details here. But
5,000 words, don't you?
I'm sorry?
You mean 5,000 words?
Yeah, 5,000 words. They say 500, 5,000. Yep. Over the past 3 years, Zuckerberg and Chief Operating Officer Sheryl Sandberg have caved to conservative criticism. Remember the manufactured outrage over the alleged liberal bias of the trending news editors. There's a quote from the article by Mr. Joel Kaplan, who is a public policy advisor to Sandberg, who said, "Don't poke the bear," in reference to whether or not they should have taken down Trump's Muslim ban post on Facebook. They decided not to, obviously, and they've ignored warnings. They've concealed what they knew from public view. They minimized the extent of the Russian infiltration when it became public. They've deflected blame, and interestingly, in kind of they've launched an aggressive lobbying campaign that included hiring an opposition research firm called Definers Public Affairs to discredit critics and tie anti-Facebook sentiment to George Soros. Quoting from the article, on a conservative news site called the NTK Network, dozens of articles blasted Google and Apple for unsavory business practices. One story called Mr. Cook hypocritical for chiding Facebook over privacy, noting that Apple also collects reams of data from users. Another played down the impact of the Russians' use of Facebook. The rash of news coverage was no accident. NTK is an affiliate of Definers, sharing offices and staff with the public relations firm in Arlington, Virginia. Many NTK network stories are written by staff members at Definers or America Rising, the company's political opposition research arm, to attack their clients' enemies. While the NTK network does not have a large audience of its own, its content is frequently picked up by popular conservative outlets, including Breitbart. So what really terrifies Facebook is antitrust law, right? So the antitrust laws, they're referred to as competition laws. They're statutes to protect consumers from predatory business practices by ensuring that fair competition exists in an open market economy. For all practical purposes, though, Facebook is a monopoly. There's no comparable social network. Twitter is not the same, is not comparable to Facebook. And pick a social network. Facebook is the behemoth. It's the 800-pound gorilla. Everybody who, if you're on a social network, you're on Facebook. It has the most people. It has the widest geographical spread. It has the most data about people, most importantly. And so there is no comparable advertising platform as well. Because it has so much data, it is a gold mine for marketing for advertisers. What makes it such a powerful advertising platform also makes it a powerful political psychological psyops platform as well. AT&T was broken up in 1982, and that likely hastened the development of cell phone. There's a lot of things, a lot of people are starting to talk about breaking up Facebook. There's a Computer World article written by Greg Kaiser that speculates on what might have happened had Microsoft been actually forced to split up in its 2001 antitrust case. One of the points made was, with two Microsofts, maybe one of them would have pushed into search, perfected the search engine, and now be serious competition with Google. Or a Windows-only firm might have jumped sooner into tablets, considering its early interest in slates, either before or when Apple launched its iPad, and then we'd have serious competition in tablets as well. So there's something to be said for breaking up companies. There's a reason that the military has units of 150 people. There's more accountability. I have a theory that once a company gets beyond 100 people, you should split it in two, just because it's going to be more innovative. There's going to be more accountability, and so there you go. That's the big thing today, the biggest story today. And what do you think, BL?
Well, I think that Facebook is in serious trouble, and I've been thinking for a long time that the board and the investors are certainly going to start to want Zuckerberg to step down. And that's the same thing, in my opinion. That'll be just like breaking it up in pieces, because, you know, he basically is Facebook. But they're coming back against this article, saying it's not right and that's not true. And, you know, I think that Facebook has such a serious trust issue at this point that, in my opinion, they're pretty much done.
Yeah, I don't think they are done. I think calling for Zuckerberg to step down is not, you can do it, but it's not going to happen. I think the only two ways that Facebook is going to change is if advertisers decide not to advertise with Facebook, which is really hard because it is still, for all its faults, it is still a very effective advertising media, and or the government forces the issue and decides to bring antitrust suit against it. So we'll see.
What would you break it into, really?
Well, I mean, think about it. It's got all kinds of things. It's got Facebook and Instagram.
Right, Instagram should be on its own, for sure.
It's got WhatsApp, or what? It's got messaging. It's got Oculus. There's a lot of things it has, and now it's coming out with a speaker or whatever. I mean, there are a lot of things that it has that can be broken up. And
we have to be nuts right now to put a portal in your house, I think Facebook has more problems than it can count at this moment, and and rightly so. I mean, they've screwed up big time. We'll see what happens. We'll be back and we'll tell you what happens after this. So my story is much lighter, but still sad because it has to do with banning Christmas. It's kind of an interesting turn of events because the banning of a supermarket chain called Iceland Foods, their Christmas ad for TV is banned. And so what's happened is it's resulted in massive earned media for the company and its cause. The ad was blocked from TV by an ad vetting body, not government or anything like that, called Clearcast, because they have a rule against political advertising in Iceland. And so this ad is deemed to be political. So here's what happens in the ad. It's narrated by Dame Emma Thompson, who has a gorgeous voice, and the name of the ad is Rangtan, and it's an animated ad, and it outlines the effects of palm oil production on orangutan habitats. And in it, a little girl finds this baby orangutan wreaking havoc in her room, and it's done in a poem, and she talks about the way the orangutan is destroying her room, and she asks it to leave, but she says, just before you go, why are you here to begin with? And the orangutan tells her that humans are destroying her forest and they killed her mother. She's afraid they're going to kill her too. And so she ran. And the little girl says, oh, I promise I'm going to fight to save the forest and that the orangutan can stay safe with her. So Iceland Foods then announces that it has removed all palm oil from all its products. And that's significant because some 50% of all products sold in supermarkets contain palm oil. And they describe the ad as an emotive animation telling the story of rainforest destruction caused by palm oil production and its devastating effect, this is their quote, on the critically endangered orangutan. The problem is, so the company on Twitter, they urged people to make the video go viral. And that happened big time. It's had nearly 5 million YouTube views now and scores of stories in newspapers and magazines and broadcast outlets, including The Guardian, Fast Company, Good Housekeeping, Wired, The New York Times. And there's the hashtag No Palm Oil Christmas also trending. So the store's homepage also says, watch our banned video. Well, here's the thing. The video was originally made by Greenpeace, and on the original video description on the Greenpeace YouTube channel, it says, if we don't act, more precious habitats will be ruined. Indigenous people could lose their homes, and Rantan and her species could be lost forever. So in just 3 days, Friday to Monday, more than 500,000 people signed a Change.org petition to release Iceland's banned Christmas ad on TV. And it's been shared by TV hosts James Corden and Jake Humphrey. But the controversy, and I might be with these people, suggests that the store probably knew all this was going to happen and that the ad would be banned. And Rachel Cunliffe, editor of CityAm, tweeted, I mean, would we all be obsessively talking about their Christmas ad otherwise? And the majority of tweets replied, hey, that's a cynical move maybe, but at least it's amplifying an important message. And then somebody said, who cares if it's fake? Every word is true. But it's also not the first time that Greenpeace has been involved in a food fight over palm oil. I wrote about their campaign against Nestle in 2010. So Greenpeace got what they wanted, and I guess the Iceland stores got what they wanted. And, hopefully orangutans now will get what they want.
There are some clever PR people in that meeting.
Totally clever PR. You know, I mean, I'm sure that that's it from the get-go. They planned the whole thing. I'm sure that's absolutely true.
So not as light. I return to the darkness. This is an article from Reuters by Angus Berwick. And so in April of 2008, former Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez sent Justice Ministry officials to China to learn about their national identity card program. Chavez wanted to provide ID credentials to millions of Venezuelans who still lack basic documentation that they needed for voting and opening up a bank account. But at the headquarters of the Chinese telecom giant ZTE Corp, they learned how China was developing a system that would track social, political, and economic behavior. Using vast databases, a government could monitor everything a citizen does, from personal finance to medical history to voting activities. Sound familiar? We've talked about this. This is Sesame Credit that China has already implemented.
And Black Mirror.
And Black Mirror, right. Technical advisor Anthony Daquin feared that such a system could lead to abuse of privacy by Venezuela's government. So he raised concerns about it, and as a result, he was detained, beaten, and extorted by intelligence agents. They knocked out several teeth with a handgun, accused him of treasonous behavior, and he fled the country. Venezuela is rolling out a smart card ID known as the Fatherland Card. It transmits data about cardholders to computer servers and is increasingly linked to subsidized food from the government, health, and other social programs that most Venezuelans rely on to survive. ZTE is at the heart of this program. Last year, Venezuela hired ZTE to build a fatherland database and created a mobile payment system to use with the card. Some citizens and human rights groups believe that it's a tool for Chavez's successor, President Nicolas Maduro, to monitor the populace, allocate scarce resources to his loyalists. The database stores such details as birthdays, family information, employment and income, property owned, medical history, state benefits received, presence on social media, membership of a political party, and whether a person voted. So as many as 18 million people, over half the population, have already signed up for the card. There's a quote from Maduro saying, "With this card, we are going to do everything from now on." To encourage its adoption, the government has granted cash prizes to cardholders for performing civic duties like rallying voters. It also has given one-time payments awarding moms enrolled in the card Mother's Day bonus of $2. That's nearly a monthly minimum wage. Maduro is also taking steps to force the card's adoption. The government now says Venezuelans need it to receive public benefits, including medicine, pensions, food baskets, and subsidized fuel. So this is not science fiction. This is real life technological totalitarianism.
Coming soon to a government near us.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, really. I mean, what a horrifying idea. And, you know, this is, I mean, in China, you get points and privileges for reporting on your neighbors and your coworkers who do things that are, I forget what the term is. I'm pretty sure it was like against the state, something to that effect. And, you know, that's not surprising that they learn it from China. Damn. So I got a much lighter view here. Good thing we're going back and forth tonight.
Right.
CocaCola has gotten, they call it getting happy. I call it getting sappy. This is from an Adweek story by Katie Richards. And over the weekend, Coca-Cola wiped out their social accounts. They wiped all the content from Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, but not for long. On Monday, which happened to be World Kindness Day, Coke repositioned its social media accounts. They say the new approach wants to put a little more optimism out in the world, especially on the internet, and create a more unified voice and point of view for all their social accounts. So they rolled out 99 posts, which is the maximum allowed all at once on Instagram before an account is deemed to be spamming. And they wanted to flood your feed with happy, positive messages. And the same happy, positive messages are flooding Facebook and Twitter. So what's with all this happiness? It looks really sappy to me. So a Coke spokesperson told Adweek that they studied their feeds and they saw that the things that their followers engage with and like and share are uplifting quotes and graphic illustrations. So the whole thing is done in Coca-Cola's color scheme, red, black, and white. And it's positioning the move as a social media wipeout, but actually Instagram's the only platform where you could actually remove all your previous posts, archive them, and bring them back at a later date. But on Facebook and Twitter, they had to add, get this, some blank posts to each account. And then they swapped out the brand's avatar with a red and white refresh icon. I'm sorry, but everything they have out there is just sappy.
Well, I mean, it's like common knowledge that inspirational quotes and illustrations do well on social media. It's like nothing innovative. They're just
we have nothing to say. Do that.
Best practices. Yeah. All right.
That's
so
my bad news. Go ahead, Dave. Tell us yours. I'm sure you have more.
Yeah, probably darker too. This is from a CNN article by Madeline Holcomb and Dakin Andone. So this is a season of giving story to counteract all those season of giving stories we're about to be inundated with, right? Remember the New Jersey couple that started the GoFundMe account to raise money for a homeless vet, but then absconded with the funds?
Yeah, he gave his last $20 to somebody who ran out of gas or something.
Yeah. And then they started a GoFundMe account to thank him. They raised all kinds of money for him and everything, and then spent it. So the couple, Kate McClure and Mark D'Amico, and the homeless vet, Johnny Bobbitt Jr., are facing charges of second-degree theft by deception and conspiracy to commit theft by deception. After the fees, the proceeds of the campaign netted about $367,000. They were all deposited into McClure's accounts. Bobbitt received, the vet received $75,000. Within months, they had McClure and D'Amico had squandered their share to buy a car, high-end handbags, trips. They also used it at casinos. So the vet was in on it too. You know, go fund me. It's like, go fund yourself.
Really? Yeah, oh, that's a terrible story. So is that the end of the bad news? I'm getting depressed here.
It is.
Okay, so that brings us to shiny new objects.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I had a demonstration that was really very interesting. It's a glass box, and what it does is it combines AI, machine learning, and big data, and it allows for real-time actionable insights. So, and also it can be used for training. So it is rather difficult for me to explain without you seeing it, but they can look, a customer service rep can look in real time at a place in a, like you're stuck in a site, you know, you're clicking on something and you can't get what you want. They can see exactly what the problem is, ping you through chat and say, let me help you. They also can completely replay a session to see exactly what the patterns are. You know, everybody wants to know, like, how does this convert and where does it convert and what part of the marketing is working and what part isn't. This will tell you that. It's full of really quite remarkable capabilities for enterprise. It's not something, you know, small businesses are going to use, but if you're Amazon or you're somebody, you know, with a huge e-commerce business, this is what you need.
Oh, very cool.
Very cool and very expensive.
So mine is not expensive at all. Mine is from a Petapixel article by Michael Zhang, and it is a free Photoshop clone that runs in your browser. It looks like Photoshop. It has the same essential tools and layout as Photoshop. It supports most file formats, including JPEG, GIF, PNG, even Photoshop files, and it supports layers as well. And it's called Photopea. Photopea. So we'll put a link of that in the show notes. And if you need to do some quick editing, or even some not so quick editing. You can use this to do it for free.
Oh, I can't wait to try that.
Yeah.
I use Google Draw, I think it is, to do things like that. But I can't wait to try this. This sounds great.
Yeah, well, if you're familiar with Photoshop, it'll be apparent at once how to use it. If you're not familiar with Photoshop, Photoshop is like it requires a PhD to learn it. So we'll put a link. We'll put some training videos in the show notes so people can learn the basics of it anyway. Does that bring us to
daily numbers?
Daily numbers. All right. So this is the labor of bloggers. This is from Orbit Media, who surveyed more than 1,000 bloggers. And ask some questions among them. How long does it take to write a blog post? So they've been doing this for several years. And so we have some comparison data. In 2014, on average, it took bloggers 2 hours and 24 minutes to write a blog post. In 2018, that has risen to 3 hours and 28 minutes. And how long does it take you to write a blog post typically?
It depends what I'm writing about, but I would say 3 hours is in the range. And I sometimes, if I'm doing research for the post, I could spend 5 or 6 hours on it. How about you?
Yeah, it depends on the post. I can do a post for my marketing statistics blog for 15 minutes. And then I'm working on a blog post I haven't finished yet, and it's probably going to take me 10 hours to finish. It's going to be a long post. But yeah, it depends on the length. So the length of blog posts is also tracked. In 2014, the average was 808 words. In 2018, that has risen to 1,151 words. Basically, the longer the blog post, the better results you're going to get, is what this survey has found. The more likely you're going to get better results from it, and that tracks with other stuff that I've tracked. That longer posts are more shareable on social. They're more likely to get search traffic. So there you go. We'll put the link to the study in the show notes so they can see it.
When I first started blogging, which was in 2002, I would post sometimes 5, 6, 7, 8 times a day. Now, because I did not spend that much time on each post, and every once in a while I would write a longer, more comprehensive kind of a post. But now, I really try and make sure that what I'm writing about is something that's backed up with research, and that takes time.
It does indeed, but frequency also is something that gets better results too. So the more frequently you post, the better results you're going to get according to this data as well.
Well, I'm sure that's true, but it's become virtually impossible for an individual blogger to compete with the amount of posts that, somebody like The Verge or somebody like that is going to put. I mean, you can't. All the really big blogs now have staffs,
Yep.
and we're out here still lone voices. So you got to compare apples to apples, I think. But anyway, that brings us to the end of episode 249 of the Beyond Social Media Show. And we'll have links to everything we discussed and videos that we talked about on beyondsocialmediashow.com/249. And so David Erickson is on Twitter as @DErickson. He's on Instagram as DE Erickson. I remember that as Dear Erickson. He's on eStrategyBlog.com is one of the many places he blogs. I am BL Ochman. I'm on Twitter as @What'sNext. I blog at What's Next Blog. I'm on YouTube as What's Next Blog, and I'm at BLOchman.com. The show, Beyond Social Media Show, is online at BeyondSocialMediaShow.com, on YouTube as Beyond Social Media, on Twitter as BS Media Show. We're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, we're on iHeartRadio, and we are also on Google Home. And we will have links to all of those things in the show notes on BeyondSocialMediaShow.com blog. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.